Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Monday night, 8 p.m. The Online Darts Live Lounge returns for a summer scorcher with myself, Phil Bars, Jack Garwood and Dan Simpson. Gentlemen, good evening on this marvellous Monday evening.
Hello there.
All right. Is it sunny down there? It's mint up here. It's proper
20 degrees it was at one point this afternoon.
Oh, that's like being on holiday, isn't it?
Bloody marvellous.
Oh, lovely.
It's too much. For the first time in a few weeks, I'm considering like playing darts this week. Like there's a big competition on Tuesday night and there's a big competition on a Wednesday night. It's just a round robin inverted. And if it stays this warm, I'm going nowhere because there's just no point.
Yeah, I've had to do an awful, and I'm looking at it's some. I'm never happy, am I? Because I mourned for the 3 weeks that it pissed down with rain every single day in July, and it did my head in. But then I've got so much work on the next few weeks, and I'm traveling loads. I keep looking in my diary and think, oh, there's 3 hours in the car, there's 4 hours in the car. That and then I keep seeing this weather and just thinking, oh no. But
yeah, but I've been in your car. Your car's got aircon. Mine doesn't work, so it's windows down and you can't hear anything.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Look, it's been a busy day. Let's jump into the chat room quickly. First of all, Fraser, good evening, mate, and thank you very much. Warren is in. Joel, Mark, how do? Joel, I'm going to start your question because that is going to come up in today's show. Gob is primed and ready. How we doing, Matthew? Connor, how do? Daniel, Stephen, Craig, James, Malachi, Chris, how we doing? Kieran, Paddy is in. Ryan is in. Boise, no, Boise's still around, Ryan. He just can't commit to Monday nights because he's got other stuff going on, but he's still part of the team. Boise's still around. He was at the match play with us, so don't you worry about that. It's all good. But it's been a busy weekend considering there's been minimal darts, shall we say. Never a dull moment.
It's almost like people contrive to... Are you all right, mate?
Yeah. I'm swapping plugs over so I can charge my phone off my laptop and then I can use the fan. Getting that warm already.
You've got no fans.
You've got no fans. It's almost like people contrive to think there's no darts on. It's a bit quiet. Maybe we could set the cat amongst the pigeons. Like, when should we schedule these things to go on?
Think about it. There has been darts on. It's just not been televised. There's been.
I said minimal darts. I didn't say none. I said minimal.
Minimal. There was county finals, seniors qualifiers, Dev Tour, and Super Series. The only thing that we were absent of is a Pro Tour or above.
And we've got 3 of them coming up this week.
Oh, yeah. Busy.
Shall we do the darts first of all before we get into everything else?
The what?
Should we do the darts before we get into everything else?
Which one?
Let's go to the Dev Tour first of all because it's an interesting one. Look, the standard on the Dev Tour is incredible, but there is a massive elephant in the room developing more and more in regards to the argument of tour card holders, non-tour card holders. First of all, congratulations to Wessel. He was sensational over the weekend. But with that comes another debate when the Dev Tour is being absolutely dominated by tour card holders.
Yeah, it doesn't stop going on, does it? And I think for me, it's just about where you are comfortable in terms of the line. I have no problem with it, but I think we can be realistic in saying that, this whole thing about the top 32 can probably expand to maybe the top 64. I think that would be reasonable. I think it's perfectly, I think if you are ranked in the top 64 on the planet in your chosen sport, then you are arguably developed. But I have no problem with it in principle. I just think you have to protect it. It devalues the whole point of what I believe they're trying to achieve if it is just completely dominated. So I just think I think it just needs sliding ever so slightly down where that threshold is.
It needs ripping up and starting again completely. You know what the PDC ranking system as a whole is? It's the UK banking system. Right, the UK banking system is incredibly ancient in terms of technology, because to completely start again would have been a nightmare. So what they've done is just create loads of patches and upgrades on historic and ancient software, and it's just ready to crash at any point. The PDC ranking systems are exactly the same. There was no consideration into how each of them play into each other and how certain things attribute to that whenever they make decisions. It certainly feels that way anyway. And this is absolutely no different to me. Like, it's just bonkers. If you are brazen enough to wander around and call yourself a PDC Tour Card Pro, because that's the status that you get given if you are a Tour Card holder, you are developed. You don't accidentally win a Tour Card, not in today's era. You go through, even if you win it through the Dev Tour, you spent a year developing at the top of that level to then take the next step up. If you're not ready to play on the Pro Tour, don't play on the Pro Tour. Don't take your Tour card. Don't say I'm doing it for experience, but I'm going to play on the Dev. It's ridiculous. It should be one or the other completely for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. And Joel, I understand the bit that you're saying about King Barry, in for instance, not getting results on the Pro Tour, but it's the back doors that these Tour card holders get from the Dev Tour, because that is one loophole that hasn't been shut. Is they can still get World Championship spots, and I don't want to bash him in here, but I'm just going to double check something, because it's a possibility. Where is he? Where's Rafferty? On the Tour card race. To be fair, I'll take Keane Barry as an example, because although he won't lose it, he's close to it, right? He's 51 on the Order of Merit. Say he drops down around the 61 mark, and that place in the Dev Tour gets him to the World Championship, and that 10 grand keeps his card. That's not right.
No, I agree. That it's really tough. The other thing, and so at the minute, the conversation seems to, and I'll just throw it out and we can circle around it if we need to, but the conversation seems to be a lot whether or not, someone is, ranked in a certain position on the main tour, and are they tour card holder? And that's a really interesting one. If somebody can qualify for something through the Dev Tour and then retain a card because of it, because that's an opportunity as a tour card holder that isn't available to everyone. So you haven't got parity there, and it isn't. Someone else could point and say that's not fair, and you'd have to say, it's not fair, as it just is the way it is. But the other thing that I have about is, I'm still not convinced that 24 is the right age at which to draw the line. I think, like, if let's be honest, for a lot of these people, they want it to be their job. Like, where else do you work, and you can go from 16 to 24, and you can have 8 years. You can qualify as a doctor quicker than technically it takes to become developed. But I think 24 is also too old for what I think the Dev Tour should be. Clearly, the rules are that they are to make the tour what the PDC wants it to be. But I just think, if it was to be what I think it should be, I think 24 is too. I think at least the being in the top 64 should preclude you from taking part in it. And I think a more realistic age of where we would consider, people to be acting like adults and treat like adults.
Look, the other thing as well is when they changed the name, when it was called the Youth Tour, this maybe wasn't such an argument. It was just an age thing then. But the fact it was rebranded as the development tour, you're developing. How much more can you develop once you've got a card?
You can't call it the youth tour if you're going to have it up to 24. Because find me another sport on planet Earth where they qualify people as youths up to 24. Like, there is one, isn't there?
That's the UN definition of a youth. 16 to 24.
Not in Billingham, it's not, mate.
UN might supersede Billingham. I'm just playing
the UN's never been to Billingham, mate.
Is there a concern that we get hung up a little bit on the word development tour, and then we have this argument over and over again? Actually, it is just for like the World Youth Championship. I have absolutely no objection with this because that is an age-based. Who is the best player in that bracket? That's fine. I couldn't care if you got a tour card. You should be allowed to be a World Youth Champion as long as you sit within the age of that. There should be no restriction going, oh no, you're too good, you're not allowed to play. But development tour, it serves a different purpose. It's there for a safe, not a safe environment. It's there to mirror the Pro Tour environment so that the step up is easier to transition for these players. They don't come in cold into a room full of plenty of experience, people that have been there and done that, and not know how to act on a Pro Tour environment where your board setups are, how to behave and all that sort of stuff. It's to learn all of those things which are being taught in JDC academies these days anyway.
Yeah. Look, it's one that I don't think they're ever going to get right, if I'm being honest.
No.
Because I don't think they're going to change it. I just think we're going to have this argument keep coming up and up. Look, one of the plus points away. Look, Wessel was incredible, and again, this isn't a dig at any of the Pro Tour players because they're only playing within the rules that are set. So, look, if they can do it, not a problem. But is this the coming of age of Nico Springer? Because we've seen him flirt with top time darts in the German stuff, the German Super League, the Dev. But it's looking as if he's going to go on and get a card now. This could be exciting because Nico Springer looks as if he could be one that breaks through.
Potentially. But the fact we've seen him on a Euro Tour, etc., is he's got more experience than others in the same position. It's just that step up to full-time Tour Pro is difficult. We've seen it multiple times. Keane Barry was one of the best equipped players to step up to be a tour card from youth ranks we've ever seen.
Yeah.
So this is his last go as well, because I wasn't off the top of my head. I couldn't think of how old he was. I had a quick look, and he is 24 already, Nico Springer. So this is his last. This is his last go at the Dev Tour, if you like. So at this point, it is sort of like he's either there or he isn't, is it? You know, he's either, and I know, you know, we do have this conversation all the time about how there is never been a better time to not be a tour card holder. But you know, if he is going to make that sort of PDC traditional route of Dev Tour to tour card holder, it has to happen now, really, because I don't know. I think it'll be a lot harder to go away, you know, out of that environment and play darts elsewhere, especially being out of the UK where the non-PDC darts is thriving, probably more so than anywhere else on the planet. It could be now or never for him to really make that step through.
Yeah, no, it's 100%. The other bits coming off the back of this, look, where there is dominated by so many tour card holders, it looks like Springer will get a card because Nyman can't take it, Barry, Rafferty, Van Veen. So Springer, Białecki, Danny Janssen. There's a name below them, which I'm going to talk on in a minute, but those three, it's a huge opportunity for the tour cards. Huge.
Certainly is. Definitely is.
There's an argument bigger for Springer and Białecki because they haven't been there and done that, and it's getting to the point where they've been really good prospects. But how long can you be a good prospect? Like we've seen, Seb is an absolutely fantastic player on his day, and he is still just 20 years old. But are we looking at Seb going, well, now's the time for you to make the jump. Now's the time for you to step up and be in that prototype. We can't keep having a conversation about you being one of the best dart players in Poland if Kachuk and Kanik and Sagansky keep getting on the tour before you.
I don't know on that, because I still think there is an element of luck to Q School. And I think Seb is in the category, along with Cameron Menzies, Daryl Pilgrim. There's a few more as well, that once they get their card, I don't think they're giving it up. But it's getting it in the first place. We saw how difficult Cammy found it to get that card. For a good 6 years, everyone was saying Cameron Menzies is the best player never to have a tour card.
Yeah.
But once he's gotten it, he never looks like giving it up. And I think Białecki is in that kind of mould as well, that if and when he gets the opportunity and gets his card, I then think he thrives. I just don't think perhaps that Q School environment is where he thrives.
Well, Q School's horrible. You know, there are very few people that thrive in that Q School environment. And often it can come as much as a surprise to them as anybody else when they do thrive. It's such a very strange and ruthless format. It is important for some players to be able to take advantage of the other routes to a tour card, because some of them just cannot find a way to adapt to that Q School process.
I wasn't bashing Sebastian, Jamie, but if you failed to get through Q School a couple of times when your stock has been as high as it has been, coming out of the UK Open and making a World Youth semi-final, etc., then he has to take advantage of these other routes. We've seen Danny Jansen go and get through Q School. We've seen him play unbelievably well on the Challenge Tour.
It's an interesting one, but there's one block left in October, so all on the line. The other name, interesting, another good weekend for Bo. How are we doing, Dale? Hope you are good. Bo is just, she's in 8th at the moment. We all know that if she gets a card, she's not going to take it. She's already made that plain and simple. But with her performances again this weekend, does it make her words from the match play again seem a little bit silly? We sat here last week thinking we didn't agree with them because we think she can mix it with the very best in the men, and she's shown it again in the Dev Tour that she can mix it with the very best regardless of sex.
Yeah, I find it a confusing viewpoint. I think the names mentioned was like, the two Lukes, MVG, like that they are the very, very, very elite players at this time in that sport. The development tour is arguably people who are, of a similar age and experience level potentially as what boys. And at the minute, there are 276 people ranked on that development tour order of merit for this year, and she finds herself in 8th. I then think the narrative of that she's not able to compete with them is flawed because there is the ranking. And I think that if that statement was said by anybody that wasn't Bo Greaves, we'd absolutely destroy them. I think we'd just take the piss out of them for saying, for being that naive to think that women can't compete, because look at the ranking. The rankings.
I thoroughly disagree with what she said. I think it sends a terrible message to those watching. If somebody at the top, like we said this the other week, the main stories to come out of the match play, or the three high-profile people making media news, was Bo wins a tournament that says I can't compete with the men. Fallon's doing interviews saying the abuse I've suffered on social media has been terrible, basically saying avoid being at the top of the game. And then we've got Deta's current tirade, which took another turn this weekend as well. They're the three main talking points in women's darts right now. It really is a bit of a shame, but the problem I've got with what Bo said is that she's aware that her top game is good enough. She lacks consistency. Laura Turner's then since spoken back in or defending up Bo Greaves, going, not sure I agree with this, but it's all about consistency. The way you get consistency is by taking that step up and putting yourself in that environment and putting yourself in an environment where you have to reach that level every time you play darts. Simply clamouring for a Women's World Championship and whatever else on the side, so you can effectively take easy route when you are Bo Greaves, who is odds-on favourite to win any TV tournament she gets into, where there is only women competing right now. It, for me, is the easy route. There's a lack of competitive drive there. It's, I'm happy doing this. I'll take my... It's what Dozer did for the first couple of years in the BDO.
Yeah.
It's what Wolfie did for so long. He was a fourth there, right? He was Mr. BDO, and there was a little bit more to Wolfie, but it was very much, I could go over there and potentially lose first round, potentially go right, or I could stay in the BDO where I'm a quarterfinal or better shot 95% of the times that I rock up to Lakeside.
Yeah, but you're right in terms of that. If the consistency is what's lacking, or appears to be lacking, or that the feel is lacking, then playing 2 televised PDC events a year is not the route to that consistency, is it? That's not the route, because if you only actually do something twice a year, then you can't possibly be expected to be consistently good at doing that one thing twice a year. I find that it confusing. I mean, again, if far be it for me to recommend anybody else what they should do with their life, but I don't agree with the narrative purely and simply that women are not able to compete, and that it's impossible that it can ever be the case that women can compete with men at darts. I just think it's flawed, very deeply flawed logic.
Yeah, but I agree, Baz. There's a couple of statements in there. Jamie, thanks for the capitals. This question that was asked of Bo was never around the issue that you're saying there. This was a very specific question about, would you take a tour card and go and play? Not the trans issue with competing with men. This was a very specific, would you go and play, or would you take a card if you won one? But it's a very interesting one. That's for sure. But the Dev Tour itself is heating up nicely with just one weekend to go. Again, congratulations to Wessel. Is that meant to be Fallon's opinion?
Hey.
Fallon's opinion hasn't changed. She wants to play with the men week in, week out. Her opinion on this hasn't changed, and I don't think ever will. That's what she wants to do.
And the hope is that in 10 to 15 times, the number of both genders that are in things like JDC academies, we spoke about this last week, are so used to playing an environment where it is mixed that they just immediately take that step up. But if the top players right now are hiding from that a little bit, then the worry is that that's what the future generations think happens when you get to the top of the game.
I don't know. I think that some of it will happen, and it's just a time thing, because sometimes you can't rush progress. Like, you can try, you can put everything in place to allow progress to happen, but then you can't force it to happen overnight. There should be, all being well, a rise in the amount of girls who take up darts as a hobby, pastime and or sport, because there is more eyes on darts than ever before. There's far more being done to promote and bring girls in at academy level, where it normalizes them seeing that as an academy type sporting pastime, rather than something they've learned to play in the social club with their dad. Like that was the route into darts 15 years ago. And so now that's in place, that should bring more and more girls at a level in volume where they can complete on the dev tour, for example. But that's not going to happen this year, next year, in the next 5 to 10 years. What you'll find is larger clusters of girls that can compete on the dev tour. What you'll then find is you won't have 4 or 5 girls at a dev tour event. You might have 20 girls at a dev tour event, and then in 6 years' time, 7 years' time, you might have 40 girls at a dev tour event. At that point, it starts to become normal for everybody. At the minute, it's a novelty. As hard as that sounds, it is a novelty to see females on TV competing with men because people haven't seen it before. When they haven't seen it before, they're not used to seeing it. It's a novelty. It will get clicks for mainstream media providers so that they will cover it. And all that will happen, but with volume, as that volume of girls comes through the dev tour, you will also then find amongst that, like if you've got 3 girls playing on the dev tour, the chance of one of them being a particularly special talent that can go on, because let's be honest, look at the dev tour now, right? Tell me there's 176 people ranked on there. How many of them has the future talent to be a world champion? Maybe 2, potentially, maybe not that, maybe more. So then to think, well, of the 3 females or whatever there is in there, to then say, well, the expectation is one of them would be as special as Bo. It is like the maths is wild. It's a really, really small pool, but the bigger that pool gets, the more chance you have of finding special talent and then being able to foster and develop it, so that then you have more females playing at the UK Open and you have more females just coming through the system in general. It's 10 years away from becoming normalized where you will have 10, 12 players with a tour card that are female. But it will happen. The trajectory is there. You just can't force it to happen overnight because you cannot build a culture that, like, for want of a better word, weeds out the shit players. Because that's what we do with male. That's what happens to men who play darts. Is men who play darts get weeded out at every level as to how shit they are. Some of them just play for pubs. Some of them play Super League, and some of them play for the county. And then they go on and on and on. And there's all these different stages at which the shit darts players get weeded out and find their level. That happens with volume because you've got so many men playing darts. You can have this huge system where we filter out all the shit players like me. But then when you...
It's the basic sports participation pyramid, isn't it? Like the bigger pool at grassroots level, slightly few make the step up to that. You see it with footballers. How many young kids play football in this country versus how many go pro? That pool at the bottom gets filtered out by, right, they play on the playground, then they play for a club, then they play at county level, then they go semi-pro, then they go pro, then they go Premier League, etc. It's exactly the same with darts. But that means we need to increase that bottom level, and people like Bo and Fallon are so crucial to inspiring people to join that bottom level so that more and more make the step upwards.
Yeah, no, 100%. Good evening, Anthony. Hope you are good all the way in Texas, mate. Always good to have you in the chat room, my friend. So that's that one. Moving on. Lendl, I'll star that and we'll come back to it. So from there, let's do the UK DA. Although I didn't see much of it, again, there was another massive talking point over the weekend. Deta pulled out of another tie. This time she was due to play Samantha Lewis, the first time that she's refused to play Samantha in a game. Caught the headlines again.
The language used, and I'm happy to say it, right? But if you are unable to communicate using grown-up, sensible, intelligent language, you undermine any potential of people getting on board with your argument. Like the point that she is trying to make becomes completely mooted by her inability to accept that there are still general, like, just polite ways of referring to people, and a use of the English language that is just like poor. I think that to persist with the phrasing that is being persisted with just undermines the argument. It stops me wanting to fucking listen. Like, I don't want to. I have no desire to listen, because it's literally the sort of thing that you see on some sort of and you don't really read or look into what it is, because you look at the way it's been written and think, written by an idiot. I can't. That's not for me to look into. That's ridiculous. It's poor, and yeah, well. It's not going to get better, is it? It's not going to get better.
Diversity course, even if it's just to understand how to use the correct language publicly.
Yeah.
Because it invalidates her argument and her point so often. Like Dan said, it just comes across so poorly. Like, fucking, of all the platforms to try and take this national, GB News is not the fucking one.
Yeah. Chris, the argument of the transgender in sport is a completely different argument, though. That it's the general way that it's being put across isn't right. And
I say this every time we have this debate. You can believe that the way Deta Hedman has gone about her actions and her language used in public posts is wrong, whilst also believing that what Deta is fighting for is correct.
100%.
They're two perfectly reasonable thought processes to have and beliefs to have, but people see it as tribal, that you can't do any of that. If you pick one side, you have to stick with everything on that side.
Yeah, but and that's the thing, is like, you are perfectly entitled to have a view on trans participation within sport. And I know, and lots of people's views will differ with each other. And I also know that people who have an ability to hold more than one view in their head at once, which is fucking rarer than it should be, are able to have those views that differ depending on the sport. They're able to look at some sports and say, I'm totally fine with trans participation there, but I'm also totally fine with, like air pistol shooting in the Olympics. People are going, it's totally fine that you can. But if you are going to use slurs, for want of a better word, because they are, if you're going to use slurs against people with protected characteristics when you are addressing your view on that issue, you turn yourself into someone whose view on that issue isn't valid anymore, because you have used a slur, because you aren't approaching it from a position of intellect. You are approaching it from a position of prejudice by using a slur in announcing your view. And if people aren't intelligent enough to understand that they're using a slur, then aren't interested in their view, because they're not bright enough to provide me with a good, honest, balanced view. So I just think it undoes any work that you do. Like, and I know people who agree strongly with Deta Hedman, but they look at things like that and go, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" Like, and they agree with the sort of the standing of the argument, but they can't believe the way in which it's been put across, because they think it undermines it. Like, it's what it is, but it's poor, and it's not going to change, is it? It's not going to get better. It's not going to change. But the world won't change either. The world will not bend and flex to suit people who want to use that type of phraseology and that type of language. You will just find yourself ostracized from most of the planet, unfortunately. Absolutely. And so that's the other thing as well. And I just want to make this point before I move on, and we all move on, is if you use words like that, or if you talk like that about a person, but you aren't a darts player. Let's say, for example, you work in any other profession in England or Great Britain, or, where you have an employer that pays your salary every month. And that employer will have a policy if they're of an employer of any note, which will be like the equality and diversity policy. And if you are caught using language in that way and describing people like that, you'll probably find yourself no longer employed by that employer. Like, it is a bit of a freebie if you don't report to anyone. You know, if you're self-employed, essentially, you play darts, so you haven't got somebody to report to. I have someone to report to, and she does sometimes bring me cups of tea while I'm on the stream. But if you haven't got someone to report, you know, you have that freedom. But, you know, if you speak like that in the real world, like, no, put the word A in front of it, Paul. Do it properly if you want to be accurate. You can be very accurate, and we can say A in front of the words, can't we? And that's what turns it into a slur.
Correct.
Yes, exactly. But that's the point in all this, that if some of the language that has been used was said in a workplace, people would be up on disciplines for code of conduct and things like that.
Correct. I've done it. I've sat people down in a room and talked to them about things like this.
Well, I say you work in the education industry, Dan. You know more than others about policies and everything like that.
Yeah. And I also know that, like, people have to have them. Like, you have, because it is a law. There is an act of Parliament that governs protected characteristics. So not only do you have to, as an organisation, have a policy if you're going to operate within the UK, but you have an obligation as an employer to make sure that people who work for you are, you know, working for you in a way that complies with the Equalities Act, which is a law.
It's an interesting one. Moving on, let's go into the hotly debated one. We put this on the show tonight, just thinking it'd be a nice one. But World's tickets did go on sale today, gents. I don't know what the current figure is at the moment, but within 15 minutes, 40,000 tickets had been sold. But there was probably just the amount of complaints at the same time. It was an interesting day for the showpiece event on the calendar.
It just, unfortunately, right, it is just, and the PDC will come in for a lot of criticism, and they already, like, people are getting stuck in on social media, but, right, is this not, and I'm just asking the question because I don't know, is this not just a sign of darts continuing to grow and becoming bigger than it's ever been before? Because is this not exactly what happens every time there is, you know, a big boxing match that everybody wants to see, and a cup final everybody wants to get a ticket for, and when the Euros were at Wembley, and when the WWE did a show in the UK, like, this is what happens. Like, it sells out in 10 minutes. Lots of people are over the moon. The people that don't get a ticket are heartbroken. And then people try and profiteer from selling them on that, because that's what people do, because people are scumbags. But at the end of the day, any building for any sporting event only has a finite amount of seats in it. Once those seats are all sold, whether that takes 15 minutes or 3 months, like, there's nothing you can do. You can't put two people on the same seat. I do think there is a lot of people that maybe misunderstood the annual membership, and there are words like missold being thrown around, and I'm happy to go with the people misunderstood what they were buying with their annual membership, because I think some people thought that their annual membership, they've only bought this year, and let's not
on the ticket.
Yeah, let's not forget that some people have been annual members for 10 years, like for a long time, and never wanted to order tickets. They bought the annual membership for the other things that it offers. But there are people who have bought an annual membership this year and thought that gets me to Ali Pali. That allows me, it gets me this special code, and when they go on sale, I can go to Ali Pali. And I think my only real criticism, because I just think it is what happens at popular sporting events now. My only real criticism of the PDC, and I don't know if it happened, is that should be made explicit when people buy memberships. This is not a guarantee for a ticket, because lots of people seem to think it was. It is what it is, isn't it?
Let's wait for him. He's going to go in a minute.
I'm just stupid system, but it's tough to get angry about, because I'm gonna be honest, I've never been in a position where I've bought a fucking ticket. I've never sat and been through the process once. If I have been, when there has been where I've paid for a ticket, then someone else has been through that process and been through the situation. If not, I've been through, fortunately, to be in a position that we're in, to go as media or whatever else. So it's difficult for me to sit here and rant about the ticketing process. Clearly, there has to be a better way of ensuring people that support the product all year round can get an opportunity. Should that be some sort of bid system? You think about the way that London 2012 tickets were distributed. You had to go in and pre-apply for them and what you wanted and that sort of thing. But the amount that ended up on touting websites in a very, very short time has to be the big concern. And yes, it is 95% likely that the PDC will be able to cancel them, get those tickets back, and put them back on sale at some point. But that completely defeats the object of having a priority window that you pay a subscription to be part of. And then there's a secondary window tomorrow that you can pre-sign up for so you can beat general sale, right? The advantage of having those things are negated by the fact you've allowed touts and bots to get into the system, purchase as many tickets as they have, and are now going to put these on resale at some other point, which will be, by the way, a general sale free-for-all.
Yeah, and that's an issue. And it was, we within 15 minutes of the tickets going on sale, you could buy a ticket from a resale website for 600 quid. You could get a ticket, Now again, if you buy that, your 600 quid is safe, because if it does get cancelled because of the resale, that's not on you. That's refunded to you. So you could have rolled the dice and paid £600 and secured a ticket. But then you get into this situation whereby, but that's what sport is now, isn't it? Like, that is what all sporting tickets have become. If you want to go to an event, you want to go to any football match, you can get a ticket. You tell me, you find me a sporting event in the last 10 years in this country that was sold out. No. Everybody was priced out. Like, everybody's got a price point at which they, can't buy the next ticket along or afford what the next ticket is. No sporting event sold out. You just can't afford to go. That's all it is. There's a limit at which people can spend tickets. Now, we've gone on for years in outside of darts about how the working man has been priced out of sports. But this is the price that you pay. This is the price you pay for your sport going up and up and up and up. You watch football and we get the Premier League and we get the Champions League, and then we got all the money coming in from all around the world, and we get £100 million players, and we get all this other stuff. And the working man gets priced out. And then, Arsenal move to the Emirates, and the season ticket all of a sudden is 1,500 quid, and it used to be on £200. That is what happens when sports get big. Now, it might not last forever, this darts boom might not last forever. But at the moment, there are people all over this country who are willing to pay £300-400 for a ticket to go and watch the darts at Ali Pali. You wouldn't think there was a cost of living crisis because the tickets sell. People are willing to pay that. But that is the cost of Phil and I were talking, and again, it's slightly related, but the WWE ran an event in Scotland, and they ran an event in an arena with 14,000 people, right? The cheapest ticket, genuinely and this isn't resale sites, this was just like the price. The cheapest ticket, restricted view, back row, £350 each. Like, you got 2 kids, it's £1,000. Now, they price it there because they sold out. You couldn't buy the tickets because they sold out. Again, You could buy some tickets. They were £1,000. They were 1,500 quid. Like, it wasn't sold out. I was just priced out of that one. But that's what happens. It's supply and demand. And the tout thing and the bots is shit. The other thing that hasn't been factored in, and this is me making an assumption as well, is I'm seeing more and more adverts for companies that aren't the PDC who tell me that they can like sell me a package where I can pay them a big shit pile of money and I can go down to Ali Pali and they'll sit me at a table and they'll also take care of my hotel and stuff like that. And it's like a sort of trip to go and watch sport. Now, clearly, some tickets, tabled floor seats have been bought up, or I assume bought, or, there's a deal done, whether that's at corporate level or somewhere else, where some of those table seats aren't going on even priority sale because they're already allocated to, the sporting holiday companies.
No, look, the one you're talking about there is sportsbreaks.com. They are an official partner of the PDC. So, yes, look, some tickets are put aside for them.
Which is fine. Again, like, I have no issue with that at all. But I think people don't factor this in when they think, well, there are only X amount of seats in the building, right? So many of them are, let's be honest, VIP tickets, players, friends and family, all that. So that you take them tickets out of the equation. Then you take the ones that are packaged up and done as part of a corporate deal, whether that's, people booking hotels with their tickets and everything else. There are only then, so it's not a big venue. It isn't a big venue. There are only so many tickets that you can get, or only so many people you can get in that room. And there are lots and lots of people wanting darts tickets at the moment. I don't think it's any different to what happens in any other sport or arena, anywhere else. Just it's not good. It's not great. It's not. And if you want to go and watch it, and you are a legitimate fan, where I feel, and it is, you leave people behind. Is there are people that have been every year for 10 years. They always go on this night, and they go every year, and it's like an annual tradition, and they're not able to get tickets. I think that's a shame because you've got people that have supported for an awful long time. It's tough though. I don't know what you do to solve it. It's just the way of the world. Like, I don't know what on earth the PDC could do in order to make a fair EU, because everyone will feel they're more entitled than everyone else to a ticket. I feel I'm more entitled. Why should I be allowed to buy a ticket before somebody else? Well, everyone thinks they are.
Just one thing, the server is still busy. Since when we started this thing, I clicked on the thing and I still can't get on.
Have you got the code? Because we all got the same one,
Yeah.
And that's maybe something, there are creases. There are definitely creases. In terms of iron, there are improvements that could be made to iron it out in terms of, not just putting up some more defense against bots by having more capture checks, by having whether it's individual links or whether it's individual codes or whatever, or unique links and codes or whatever that may be. Sending the same link and code to everybody is silly because, let's be honest, how many people are sharing that link and code once they've got it? How many groups of friends, one of them's got a membership, and as soon as it lands, they're all like, it goes in the WhatsApp group. You just protect yourself. Just make you.
Well, if there's a group of you trying to get tickets and every one of you logs on at the same time, and that creates more traffic on the server, doesn't it? Like, that should have been an individual code. You use it, you log in, done.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you will never stop it. You'll never prevent it from. I was in Blackpool last week, and there was, the lads were out the front as always in the pissing rain without, you'll never remove it. You will never stop like it, but you can put measures in place to restrict and limit how free and easy it is for people to take the piss.
Did you get tickets for the match by right, Dan?
I was fine.
But going back to one of the points, though, that in regards to some of these tickets that have appeared on secondary sites, bearing in mind, these people have put them on there. They haven't even got those tickets yet. Right? You may have purchased them, but you don't physically have those tickets.
Nope.
So I genuinely, I know the PDC have had a lot of shit on social media for this today, but I genuinely believe after what they did at the match play and going forward, I genuinely think all those tickets on resale sites will end up back on general sale. Because they can track them all. They know who's bought them.
Yeah, this is the thing is because when the tickets are sold, that's why it should be quite easy. Like it should be dead easy for the PDC to do that because the tickets are all like individual. Like I said earlier, you can't sell the same seat twice, can you? For each session, seat 1A was sold by the PDC once. As soon as seat 1A appears anywhere. Now, what I have no problem with, and I want to make it very clear, I have absolutely no problem with tickets going on resale sites at face value.
Yeah.
No problem whatsoever. Life happens, things happen, you end up with a ticket and you can't go to that event anymore and someone else might want it. Like, of course, you should be able to sell a ticket on, but you shouldn't be able to sell that ticket on for 8, 9, 10, 12 times what you paid for it. That's taking the fucking piss. So,
100%.
So, but again, you can only sell, Saturday afternoon, 12 o'clock session, you can only sell CA1 once if you're the PD. So once it's been sold and it appears on a resale site for 600 quid, the PDC should be able to just go, fuck him then, take him off. Like, send him an email, cancel his ticket, and then just put it back on sale again.
Which is what again, that will happen.
That does undermine your pay your 50 quid, get the early access, get opportunity to buy tickets early. But again, the only way you can iron that out is to try and put something in place to reduce the amount of bot tickets that are going to end up on a resale site.
Look, it's the resale sites that the issue. They shouldn't be allowed because it's just legal touting.
Of course it is. Well, it is. I don't understand what the difference is between ticket touting and what some of those sites do. Like I genuinely don't. I don't understand what the difference is between the bloke stood in the piss and rain outside the match play saying anyone got any tickets, buy and sell, and what some of these websites do, where I can have a ticket and just go on and list it for 600 quid and someone else can buy me it and someone takes a bit in the middle. I don't know what that is. Like, I don't know what the difference is.
Yeah, look, it's interesting, but my next question is, this is going to sound daft. Has the World Championships outgrown Alexandra Palace? Because this is now 2 years in a row that tickets aren't going to go on general sale.
Well, I think everybody other than the PDC thinks it has. But the PDC seemed pretty, I know Matt Porter in his interview seemed pretty firm that because of the fan zone and what's happening in the big room, that there wasn't an option of using the big room in Alexandra Palace. I think they seem pretty certain that it hasn't and it's going to stay there. But I think if you speak to anyone as a casual fan, unless they happened to get tickets today and they're over the moon high-fiving strangers on the night bus, then they'd probably say, yes, it has. But where does it go? That's the problem, because it's difficult. The time of year is difficult. The time of year is really challenging because there's lots of shit going on around Christmas. Like there's lots of other stuff that happens. You want to take over a place every year for 3 weeks, right through December and into the new year. Like it's a proper challenge to find even just availability.
Well, this is the point, and I know everyone says about the Great Hall, but when you listen to Matt and what he said, he actually broke it down really well. That if they put the darts in the main arena, the rest of the complex doesn't work for the tournament
the rest of the complex they currently use.
But the rest of the complex is already used
as a
for
straight
isolating and stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Do they then say that we're making enough money that we buy out use of facilities closer to the ice rink side of Alexandra Palace? If you're then moving to the Great Hall and selling an extra 1,000 to 1,500 tickets a session, if we think the capacity of the Great Hall is that much more than the room they're currently using, is that enough over, was it 18 sessions? More than that. To warrant complete control of Alexandra Palace?
Yeah, but it's whether the Alexandra Palace would give them complete control because of everything else.
Money, isn't it? It's if those 1,500 extra seats you could get in the Grand Hall, as a estimate, equate to enough money that the PDC could pay Alexandra Palace more than they generate from ice skating.
I may be wrong.
Various other areas on the complex. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like that's the trade-off. It's not right. They're not going to get sentimental about offering ice skating if the PDC come and pay them an extra $500,000 compared to what the ice skating generates.
I may be wrong with this, but I think I read somewhere that part of the ice skating is due to community projects revolving around Alexandra Palace, which they have to have for council funding, government funding, and everything like that.
There'll be a lot of contracts that are already in place that people will find it very difficult to wriggle out of. I'll tell you what the answer is, right? And we see them all over the place. Every December, the only challenge will be the fact that they're all fucking booked in December. But how often? Like I was in Nottingham the year before last. Or a couple of, no. God, what year did we go to Wally Pallycop? 3 years ago? 2 years ago? 2 years ago.
John O'Shea was there 2 years ago.
Yeah, I went down. I stopped in Nottingham the night before. We went into the town, me and Billy, and someone had erected this absolutely monstrously big, massive, like Swiss-style bar, like great big external with hundreds of people in, and it had food trucks all around it. And literally, they built
an elevated lap of an ice rink,
and they build it in November, and they take it away in January. Like because of some other work that I'm doing at the minute, like the temporary building market in this country is like wild. Like there are some absolutely amazing things that people can literally come and build you. Like I would be fairly certain that there are a number of companies that can come to to Alexandra Palace and adjacent to the building that is being used, build all sorts of fan areas and zones that are interconnected, that don't have people going out in the rain, that have tunnels that go between and everything else all safe and compliant with the fire regulations and all of that. For me, that's the answer, is moving into the big hall, but having a, additionally resourced provision to house whatever else needs housing, whether that's a players area that goes out the back, or a media area with players area, or something that comes in temporary, gets dropped off in November and taken away in January, that would more than comfortably be paid for by the additional tickets that they would sell from filling the Great Hall. That's what I would be looking at. If I was working for the PDC, I would be looking at temporary accommodation that could house, like, whether that be food, fan zones, additional toilets, everything like that, or on the other side, temporary accommodation for media, players, everything else that can be literally built, taken away. Because again, you can enter in with that. There are some big companies in Britain where the PDC could almost buy that, and it can be stored for the rest of the year, and it can just come back out every year. Comes back out every year on the lorries, and they drop it off and then bugger off again.
I'm still absolutely flabbergasted that the PDC don't, or Matchroom as a whole, don't own a campus of some sort. So they haven't gone and built an arena that is multi-use, that seats 5,000 to 10,000 at its maximum capacity, but has dividers to break it down into smaller venues if you need it to do so, that you can put snooker tables in and host snooker tournaments there. You can put dartboards around the side of the walls that then can be hidden by seats coming out the side, so they can be used for pro tours, but also then you put tier seat in there and you can use it for a major tournament, so it's always the same place. So you put a hotel on site that everybody books in because it's on the business and it's close, and you've got facilities like a couple of restaurants to get involved, a bit like St George's Park. Right, they build a big football arena. They get someone else to take the hotel contract. They got someone else to take food and beverage contracts, etc. It works. Now, you don't need an area as vast as St George's Park. You don't need to maintain it anywhere near. But think of what they could do in Matchroom, because it's not just one sport either. They have the pool. They've got 9-ball. They've got snooker. They've got darts. They've got interest in boxing.
Yeah, so similar. Kevin makes a good point, like what the UFC did with the UFC Performance Center in Vegas.
Like, why doesn't that exist?
But to be fair, I'm with you. I agree. Who said it? Ryan. I think next year, and Anthony, this will again. I think this will again please you in general. I think next year we go to 128, and we get extra sessions for the demand. I genuinely think that's what happens, that next year we go to 128, and then I think we worked out it's four extra days, so another 8 sessions.
Is that enough to satisfy demand?
I don't know.
No. I mean, it's not, but it's better, isn't it? It's better than you have. So it's better than you got at the minute, but it won't satisfy the demand. But again, it's the risk. The risk to the PDC is, and they must have, like, surely they've thought this through, is that darts is in such an incredible position at the minute, and it's on such an upward trajectory. It's very easy to start looking at big decisions based on where darts is at now. But you have to factor in the risk element that darts might not sustain this, and it might not sustain it for even 2 or 3 years. And if you start entering big contracts and lengthy contracts and expensive contracts, then it's a risk, isn't it? You are rolling that dice. It might be that the PDC wants to monitor 2 or 3 years of this, because people say, oh, the demand's increased for 2 years, and it has, like 2 years in a row, the demand's been higher than ever. But that can drop off just as quick. But if the demand's higher than you want it to be for 3, 4, 5 years, then you've got a bit of a case study behind you to say, well, we can now justify spending this, spending that, doing this, bringing this extra in, moving here. At the minute, I think there is a fear, or there should be a healthy fear, that what's happening in this sport is a moment in time and might not stay forever on the same trajectory.
I think the difference with what I just suggested about building is all of their sports aren't going to drop off at once. If it's a Matchroom project, not a PDC darts project, then they can put boxing shows in there. Boxing is heavyweight division, a bit of a mess. The rest of the sport in a pretty good place at times. You can rent out to influencers if you really need to. Snooker's all right, needs a bigger venue. Sheffield struggling to provide that, might go abroad, but actually if you've got the chance to play things there instead of Milton Keynes, and you take it. I mean, Matchroom run fucking Moscone Cup equivalent of professional bowling, for Christ's sake. They can put lanes in there if they need it. But the things they could do with venue, they could build purpose-built streaming lanes.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
It's soundproof, so you get a referee in there and it's fine. Almost like what we had in Southampton to start with. That would be your Pro Tour streaming board.
That would be amazing. I mean, it would be amazing. But again, that's 10 years away, isn't it?
Yeah.
It'd take you 4 years to get the planning permission in this country.
I'm sure Bazza could sort that out.
Another year to do all the drainage surveys and make sure that you're not accidentally building on somewhere where newts live or something like that. Like, you've got... So these things don't happen fast.
I think people forget that Ali Pali only holds, I think, is it 3,400 a session?
Yeah, and that again is with, I reckon you could knock the 400 off, couldn't you, for tickets that aren't on general sale?
Yeah.
Ballpark,
Yeah.
But they do have an issue in that there's so many sessions. To suddenly jump to a 6,000-7,000 seater stadium
to risk
of some sort is an awful lot of tickets to them. Like, you have to be at 150%, if not 200% demand before you can make a jump to a venue of that capacity. Because 110% flatters to deceive. Like, which happened before when you spanned the venue, didn't it? Like, they were comfortably at 150+% of demand for tickets. They made the right move. They span it around. It's fine. The worry is that we've seen the Premier League is the perfect example of what happens if your venues are too big. They are 95% of them are soulless. They're dark, dingy efforts for the crowd. Like, none of them are well-lit arenas at all. And that's deliberate.
But this is the other issue is, we were chatting in WhatsApp about it. If say they were to think about leaving Ali Pali, look, they're not going to, but just say, okay, we need to leave. I don't see where they go, because cost is one thing. Hiring venues for 3 weeks would cost an absolute fortune, and there's no what I call medium-sized venues in and around London that I think would work, because I don't think they're going to move the World Championship from London. So you have to look in there. The O2, one, it's too big, and two, you couldn't book it for 3 weeks.
That's the problem.
But next door is the best venue in darts, so
stop it.
What? How big's the XL?
Let's have a look.
The copper box isn't big enough, is it?
Do you know where is perfect?
Wembley?
Do you want to know where is absolutely perfect, right? But you would just struggle with availability. But if it was available, I'll tell you where is the most perfect venue possible. Capacity of 5,200.
Does that include when a stage is in?
Yes. Capacity of 5,200 in South Kensington, London, is the Royal Albert Hall. It is iconic. It is beautiful. A darts major event. I don't care about the World Championships. A darts major event at the Royal Albert Hall is like my dream come true. Size and location is perfect. I just think you might, at Christmas, be competing against Andre Rieu knocking his waltzes out in there. There might be a little bit too much going on at Christmas in the Royal Albert Hall for you to claim.
Remember the lights they had in there when they put the tennis in there and Mansour Barani was trying to hit the ball? Imagine fans trying to launch pints into them.
Can you imagine though? Can you imagine how cool that will be? Unreal.
Just looking at the pictures now, that would be quite stunning, to be fair.
Maybe, and 5,200, and especially with those balconies as well. Like
nicely lit as well, isn't it? Like
it's beautifully lit. It's beautifully arranged. The layout's unbelievable. Nobody should damage it, Chris, because again, as I would have at all darts venues, is a very, very strict no tolerance dickhead policy. I would just immediately have them pulled out by their feet.
Anthony, you are bang on.
This is it. Yeah, exactly. It's like iconic venue. This is what we bought. This is what we want. We want darts in the most iconic venues we can get them.
Does the Royal Albert Hall have the incredibly same issue that Alexandra Palace does?
What's that?
Where the fuck are they putting the trucks?
Oh, no. You're fine in there. Get all sorts into there, don't they?
And where's the fan zone?
Yeah, I think the arena would work, as in for the fans, but I'm not sure you could have the fan zone, hospitality.
Oh, you could have you think there aren't people? Yeah, the prawn sandwiches
Yes,
at the
hospitality
BBC
at the Royal Albert Hall. Let me tell you.
I mean, in terms of size and everything like that, getting it all in.
Like, am I the only one? Like, so, and it might just be me. Maybe I'm getting old, right? But somebody tell me what the fan zone is, other than the bit you have to walk through to get to the toilet. Like, because you get there half an hour before the darts start, you buy a drink, you find your seat, you chat to your pal, and then the darts starts, and you watch the darts until it finishes, and then they kick you out. I don't know what's going on in these fan zones, but
the fan zone this year from Paddy Power was different class, mate. It was special what they did in the fan zone. They had loads of interactive stuff. They had Play the Pro. They had loads going on.
Yeah, but the cynic in me tells you that that's only because they're a sponsor and they want you to be near their stand so they can be turned into what they do.
Why wouldn't it be? But it works.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It's not an essential byproduct of having a tournament. It's brilliant, and it was very, very good, and I walked through it. I spent some time there and whatever. I saw people having a go at the commentary line and whatever else was there. But is it an essential of a darts tournament? Probably not.
Well, this is my thing.
For the world, I think it is an essential part.
No, bars are an essential part, and toilets are an essential part.
And the bars are in the fan zone, which creates the buzz, which creates the atmosphere.
They don't have to be. They just need a bar and a toilet. And if you really, really need him, just give people headphones to listen to Darts DJ Lee instead of him playing 5 to me whenever I walk in.
Like I go, if I go to, and again, I know it's, different experience, different sports, different thing, right? If I go to St. James's Park, I don't go to the fan zone because there isn't one, but I still get plenty of ale into me, and I still get something to eat when I want something to eat, and I still get plenty of atmosphere, like without what is to me a very long walk to the toilet, because I have to walk past lots of branded advertising. Like, so, what did we have in Blackpool? Village Hotels, they were in there playing a game. In fact, their game was actually all right because it suits my darts perfectly. You had to throw a 26. It was. I literally said I could be the world champion of their game.
The lad is back. Taylor loves a good ladder. They were in the background of his video last week.
Yeah, they had to throw a 26. But again, would I miss it? If someone said to me, "Oh, we can't," like, Dan, it's terrible news. Like, you'll be able to get a ticket this year because it's at a much bigger venue. Problem is, that game that Village Hotels did where you had to throw a 26, and if you did, you got in a free prize draw for a night. That's not going to be on. I wouldn't say, "Oh, fuck it, I'm not going then." Like, I'm not, if you're not putting the, like, I get it's great, but I just think make the best of what you've got, but prioritize the sporting event rather than the balloons with your sponsor on.
Look, it's interesting, but good luck anyone that's going to try and get a ticket tomorrow. There are still some available. It's not completely sold out yet. I'm not sure what there is left, but there'll be some on sale tomorrow.
So can I get before we move on, my last one again, and it's a mild criticism, but I'm just going to keep repeating it every time it comes up. The primary thing that I wanted the PDC to do, I could regardless of moving venues, regardless of putting more tickets on sale, tackling touts, doing anything like that, for Christ's sake, just give me bigger family zone for afternoon sessions and give me under 16 ticket concessions. I'm happy paying £60 for an adult ticket. That's how much it costs to go and do something when you are an adult. Don't charge me 60 quid for an 8-year-old. It's a piss take.
2 times today, I've seen people post going, we only managed to get tickets for the family section. Will they check if we don't have an under 16 with us?
See, that pisses me off, see? That pisses me off because the answer should be immediate to that. Yes. Yes, they will check. And yes, you should be immediately spun round for buying tickets in the family zone, of which I don't know how big the family zone is this year. 8 seats, maybe 12, don't know. It's not fucking big. Like, it's not. No, it is. It's like one column, isn't it? It's one square of the stand. But like, and again, evening sessions, fine. Make it tiny, because don't take kids to the evening sessions. They're mental. But afternoon sessions, give me a really big family zone for the afternoon sessions, and put some concessions on. Like, allow people, if you want to, we'll talk for hours about the future of darts. Let's get more girls into that. Do it all. Like, allow parents to take kids to darts. Like, and it shouldn't cost 150 quid to take your kid to the darts. Adults buy their own tickets, so they can all just pay for themselves, but we've got to get some concessions.
Anthony, you can't come to the Worlds this year because you've got to come to Blackpool.
Correct.
Blackpool's the one.
That's the priority.
Yeah. Right. I'm going to play the clip from our Edgar interview. It's about 2 minutes long because he brought up some really good things, and we'll discuss.
I've said this before in the fact that at the moment the tour doesn't support 128 players, so why have we got 128 players on it? If it supports 64 players, why is it not a 64 player tour? So yeah, I get that. I mean, the simple fix is to limit the restrictions, but then where does that cut off be? If you say the bottom 64 can play in other events and things, what happens if you're number 65? What happens if you're number 63 and you drop out and then go back in, and can you dibble in and out? So where is that cut off and where is that lie? Because that horizon's going to cause some tricky ground. So that's where I don't think that is possible. If we're now going to talk about me from if I was involved in an organisation, what would I do? I would bring back the old Championship of Darts. Remember, was it Crondon Park?
Yeah,
Championship of Darts. It was aimed at the top 32 then. It shouldn't be aimed at the top 32, they're catered for. We should be looking 32 to 64. That gives you a reason now to be in the top 64. It's going to make more professional players. It's going to give those players access to streamed events, which is going to be great for their sponsors. It's going to give them opportunities to appear and win and play on a regular basis. So it gives you a reason to be in the top 64. The PDC's got a great staircasing system. 128 get your tour card, 64 keep it, 32 get the World Championship, 16 match play and Grand Prix. You know the staircasing system, as we like, 24 Masters. But that really starts from 32. Let's put a step below. Let's go 32 to 64 or 32 to 96. Let's look at those players. Because if you don't want to do the situation, there's 2 fixes. Situation 1, Championship of Darts. Make the players earn it. Make them battle it out against their own abilities and their own levels. Battle it out for this prize fund. Or start paying the first round lose on the Pro Tour. 64. 64. I was always around the 64 cut-off, and I was a professional player. That was my income. That was my job. I didn't have a job as well. I lived off of that. Because it's not just the prize money. Because of the opportunity the PDC provide with streams and different things like this, you obviously get sponsorship. The more opportunity to streamed events, the more opportunity to sponsorships and endorsements and everything that comes with that. More people are seeing you play with your darts, which means your dart sales, and people get royalty on dart sales. So there's all these different factors going on as well in the background. So 64 comfortably. I think that's going to extend a little bit more now we've seen the prize money go up on the Pro Tour. And with more opportunity, it could go even further down. I think we're a long way off of getting 128 though. The only way we get 128 is guaranteed salary for Q School winners.
I thought Matt spoke really well in this. And this is something that's coming up more and more about the state of the tour lower down. Not at the top end. At the top end, everything is what it is. it's purring along nicely.
Well, that's because the top boys take a crap and they get someone behind them saying, "How would you like your bum wiped today?" But carry on.
He has a knack of being incredibly difficult to disagree with, doesn't he? Like, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to make a sensible argument, even just to play devil's advocate, even just to sort of be a contrarian and challenge any of the points that he makes, because really they all make sense, don't they? Like, it does make sense. Whether it makes commercial and business sense for the PDC, for someone else to think about, it makes, to me as a darts fan, hearing somebody say that, I go, yeah, great idea.
I think the issue is that as much as the players are struggling, there are still hundreds, borderline 1,000 people every January idly trudging along to Q School. And as long as you've got people doing that, to the PDC, that says we've got demand for people to try and be a professional dart player.
Yeah, but that's great. I'm not sure in the real world that's the best barometer, because first of all, if you take out like the percentage of those people that genuinely believe they can go and win, or aren't just doing it for the experience, people that are going there thinking this is what I want, this is what I want my life to be. But I think you change that if you professionalize that tour card, right? And it's a theory, and I'm happy for anyone to take the piss out of this. I think if you professionalize that, that element of winning a tour card, there are people that go to Q School that wouldn't go if it had to be their full-time job.
Yeah.
Like,
there are people that would chase it knowing it's a full-time job, but also knowing that there's the absence of too much pressure to perform is a good thing. You need pressure to perform. Like, just rocking up, winning a couple of games, going, right, I've earned 20 grand for the year is a nonsense. And they've made that argument a few times in the past, going, well, actually, it just encourages people to rock up, as I said, get a tour card and then not compete. But actually, financial security is important to these players to then be able to build from a platform. It would have a far greater effect on players positively, in my opinion, to have a base earnings for the year. No, that's what's guaranteed. That's what you can afford to do and whatever. Than it would people chasing first round prize money or second round at every event, knowing that actually this double 30, double 16 I'm now hitting is the difference between breaking even and not for a month on a pro tour. Like, that's the problem. It's the same. The number of people at Q School for me is the same barometer as the number of people that will have watched the Premier League this year. It's not a good measure because for me and a lot of other people that can see it with their own eyes, Luke Littler's impact on the number of people watching darts is far greater than saying it's the Premier League format, it's this, it's that, it's the other. But Littler is there, and that number can now be used as a narrative to go, well, actually, more people than ever watch the Premier League, so we're doing something right. The same with Q School. As long as people keep going to Q School, they're going, well, there's still demand for people to be a pro in our current system, so there can't be anything wrong with it. And it's just another opportunity to not address something that is actually quite significant when, yes, there have been prize fund increases over the last couple of years, but not enough to sustain people's livelihood as a full-time professional dart player.
Well, that's the challenge, isn't it? And some of it's perception. It's where darts wants to be. It's where you want to be. And if we talk about, is darts got to a position where the two most important and special venues to us is Ali Pali and the Match Play, and people are making arguments that both of those venues are surplus to requirements because there's so many people that want to come and see darts, and it's really like important that everybody gets to come and see it. But then you think, well, that's great, the sport's moving on, but you look at the actual professionalism of the sport, and I mean professionalism as in what the word actually means. How many tour card holders are exclusively professional dart players, and that's the elite of your sport. That's the elite. That's the equivalent of of Premier League footballers. This isn't footballers in League Two in the Championship. Like that's your very elite, and these players are playing on multiple TV major events per year, but don't earn enough money through that would equate to a minimum wage job. But again, it's difficult because it's such a blurry line to analyze, because and it's exactly like Matt says, people have the ability in theory, your earnings as a dart player are unlimited. There is an unlimited ceiling to your earnings as a dart player. How good are you at going and selling sponsorship? Like how good are you at going out and securing sponsorship opportunities? Because you could be ranked outside the top 32 and be the highest paid dart player in the world. If you do not have to be, you could never win a major and be the highest paid dart player in the world. If you're really, really good at getting attention where anybody else wants to see it and selling sponsorships, like you can.
We've literally seen it the last couple of years. Fallon Sherrock was not a tour card holder, a PDC professional dart player, but there is absolutely nowhere over the last couple of years the attention that Fallon brought and the sponsorships that come with it. Fallon has not earned more money than at least 30% of players that have been in the top 32 over that time.
And while that is the case, the organisation will always be able to say, and they're right in saying it, no, we are not exclusively responsible for these dart players' incomes. Like they are a tour card holder, and they have the opportunity to earn unlimited amounts of money. There is no ceiling on what they can earn. They can earn what they want. They need to be better at business people. They need to be better at selling sponsorships. They need to be better at, branding themselves. They need to be better. And I appreciate that let's be honest, there's not a great deal of that work. Some management teams are superb at it. There's not loads. There's not loads of them, is there? There's not a huge amount of people who are really, really talented at marketing darts people into the corporate world and branding them and everything else. It's quite a small niche.
We've literally seen that over the last couple of years as well. You look at big name players that walked away from management and look at their shirts in the early part of those partnerships breaking down. Adrian Lewis went unmanaged after he broke away from Keith Della. His shirt was absent of sponsors within 6 months. Michael Smith went solo from a management company. His shirt was absent of the majority of the sponsors that were there when he left for 6 to 12 months, maybe. Michael Smith winning his first major has got like one patch on.
There's also players that do have management that I don't know what they're paying them for either, because their shirts are also empty and have been for a long time as well.
Correct. But again, that the argument there is, I'd say, so it's not just down to your management, is it? Like, you need to do it. You need to get off your, you need to be able, and again, it's not everybody's skill set. It's not what everybody does, but you need to be able to, if you want to be a professional dart player, it's not, and you want to make good money out of it, it's not just about playing darts, unfortunately. Like anything. You've got to have other skills as well.
Peter Wright has pointed himself into snakebite and changed his career, but the problem is his management.
Yeah, but you could never make the case against. Like, I've never been to a darts event ever, regardless of what it was and where it was, and not seen at least 5 people in a Peter Wright t-shirt. Yeah. Never been anywhere to watch darts, not seen people in a Peter Wright shirt. Nobody could ever say that Peter Wright hasn't massively monetized his darting career.
No.
Never seen a sponsorship pass on a player shirt and looked into the company.
Here's the but though to all of this. That people saying dart players are self-employed, which they are, then should the restrictions be as tight as what they are? If you're not employed by the PDC, should they have so much say on where you play and what you do?
Well, if you weren't a professional sportsman, and let's say you were a self-employed welder, let's just pick something, right? If you're a self-employed welder and you work for a firm employs you and says, you come here and weld for us, and if you weld well, we'll pay you this money and you can weld. If they then said, well, you're self-employed and we'll pay you Monday to Wednesday, but you can't go and weld for somebody else on a Thursday, they'd be breaking the law. They'd be breaking a part of the law called IR35 that governs, and it's about how it's where you separate like salaried staff PAYE employees from self-employed contractors. It doesn't seem to apply in sports. Like sport and sports are very strange. Like they sit legally very separate to normal employment, so we see this with all sorts of sports. We see it with golfers and tennis players, and football is very strange because the contracts that are involved, the professional contracts that are involved in football, like bear very little resemblance to what people would consider like, a legally compliant, like where else could you lawfully be fined your wages? Well, you can't, can you? Like your employer can't fine you your wages. That's insane. But in sporting contracts, that's like the dumb thing, and it's acceptable. I genuinely don't know. Clearly, it is legally compliant because otherwise, someone would have just. Well, but surely someone would have just stopped them from doing it years ago. Somebody years ago would have.
And the financial backing that they've got, because. Look, we've seen this in snooker where Barry's basically said, come on, have a crack at it, but I'll fight it till the cows come home. It's technically a restriction of trade. Now, the 100 is on in the UK right now, right? And the 100 is the first sport in the UK that has had a draft system in what feels like forever. And the reason is that in the UK, you couldn't really have a draft system if all the sports clubs are owned individually because it's a restriction of trade. A governing body, the FA, couldn't tell me that I have to go and play for Chelsea if I want to play for Liverpool, right? That's a restriction. The way they've got around that for the 100 is that all of the franchises are centrally owned. They're all centrally contracted. So it's not them forcing you to go and play for a club that you don't want and sign a contract. You sign a central contract and they basically put you in a subdivision of their company.
You sign a contract with the 100.
Yeah. Which is how they get away with that. But that's the only way that they've been able to get around this restriction of trade that exists within the UK. That is it's EU law. Like in America, they don't really have that. If you go into a draft system or declare yourself eligible for that, you sign a contract with someone. That's where you go and work.
But the difficulty is the problem is it's not. As soon as you are dealing with someone who is self-employed, anything that would normally be associated to their employment rights doesn't exist. So if you were to restrict, so my job, like my daytime job, because of what I do and because of the way that because of who pays my wages, if you like, I have to have express permission. I think probably from the chief executive had to come to have any additional income, and that's in my contract of employment. Like literally, my contract says if I want to do anything else that provides me additional income, I need written permission from the chief exec. That's the rules. Now, I often think, well, is that legal? Is that allowed? And it is. Like it is. That's allowed. As a PAYE employee, they can say to me, look, you work for us and this is your salary and that's a full-time job and you are employed by us. I think perhaps now, they don't shy away from giving permission. It's just a procedural thing. But I think if you are self-employed, then again, the rules are the rules. So if you're a plumber and I employ you to come and do some plumbing in my house, but you say, well, I'm doing your house on Thursday, but I'm going to do the bloke at number 7 on Friday, I can say the bloke at number 7 is a dickhead. I don't want you plumbing for him as well. Well, if you're going to plumb for him, I don't want you plumbing for me. Fucking, you can fuck off now. Because and then that's legal, isn't it? I can choose which self-employed people and I can put any selection criteria onto that that I want to. So maybe it's just that. Maybe it is literally just that you can say, well, these are the rules that if you want to be self-employed and get work from us, these are the rules. You can't do this. You can't play on the stream there. You can't. And you either like the rules and therefore you can be one of our people we engage with on a self-employed basis, or you can go elsewhere. And that's probably perfectly legal.
So if that's the case, then why would the snooker contracts changed? Because 2 weeks before the Crucible, it's common knowledge, it's out there in the public domain now, all the snooker tour card holders were issued new contracts after that leaked phone conversation with Barry and Jason Francis. Everyone heard it on Twitter or whatever. That conversation was heard when the two of them exchanged views, shall we say. Barry said, challenge me if you want. Jason Francis said, I will. And then 2 weeks before the World Championship, their contracts were changed to saying, yes, you can now play in other TV events, streamed events, as long as World Snooker
Tour.
World Snooker Tour.
WPBS.
Do not have an event at the same time.
But did that, if it was going to court, did it not just save a few £1 million in legal fees?
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. That's what it looks like. It was settled that the challenge would have won. So what I'm saying is, if the snooker players have challenged it and they've won, would it be the same if a darts player, take Gerwyn Price for instance?
It's not.
He's the more likely one likely to do it. Say Gerwyn Price went, I don't agree with this. I want to go and play in this, and he had the bollocks to challenge the authority. If it's been upheld for snooker, surely the principles are the same for darts, because effectively the PDC and World Snooker have the same parent company. So the contracts can't be too different.
But what it sounds like, and I'm far from a snooker expert, so please correct me if I say something wrong. What it sounds like from what you said has happened in snooker there is someone's made it quite clear that they are going to go along the road of a legal claim. Yeah. And there's two elements to a legal claim. Like if you're an organization like that, is first of all, it's very, very, very costly, and it's even more costly. It fucking costs a fortune even if you win. It costs a fortune even if you win. But and it takes a long time. It takes the focus of some of your most important people that you need to be doing other things. Like you need to be doing productive things, growing your business, and it takes their focus away to do this legal battle that's going on. So it takes loads of money, and then even if you win at the end, you've got, let's say it takes 2 years. You've got 2 years of essentially the potential for looking bad and negative perceptions within the media, because there will be 2 years of people pointing to the fact that this legal thing is going on and spinning that narrative of the way that you are treating your players and the way that you've structured your contracts, and are you trying to rip these people off and you're stopping people from earning. And all those people can say those things for 2 years. And sometimes it's not just the ruling and the money, but it's also the perception of it as well. And sometimes people will just make those changes and say, oh yeah, fine, yeah, and they'll give a bit on it, not just for the overall, but it will be to avoid the fact that they don't want to be pointed. It's one thing on a conversation on the phone in a back room saying what you think, but sometimes people might not want that protractedly explained in the mainstream media, that is your approach to managing the people that work on your tour.
Also, give a bit is the perfect line there. From how I understand these changes, they've not completely eradicated or taken or given you the freedom to go and play wherever you want. They've just amended it slightly so it's a bit more amicable for everybody.
Yeah.
So that still wouldn't hold up to a legal challenge, by the way. They just changed it a bit and given them players a little bit more freedom, going, we still provide you with opportunities. We still need you to do this so the tour doesn't crumble, but actually we'll give you a little bit more leeway so that nobody brings the entire house of cards down. And actually keep people happy for another 10 to 15 years until the Saudis come in again and go, actually, we've had enough of this. We want to do our own thing. And then it goes under. And the fact that they've opened that up and we're aware of that means that other people out there will go, right, now if we launch something here, we know that they're not watertight, even though they've made this change. That was just to satisfy people's side needs.
Yeah, so like, let's be fair, that Macau, was it Macau where that tournament was going to be?
No idea.
Pass.
Wherever it was, that snooker one that Ronnie wanted to play in wasn't allowed.
Yeah.
What, I can guarantee that next year that'll be on the calendar in a segment or a date where there isn't a World Snooker tournament, so he can play in a stream tournament.
Yeah, but then what happens when World Snooker just stick an event on that day after it's announced? Because surely that's doable, isn't it? You can do that. You can play the dickhead.
Yeah.
That's what I'd do. I'd wait until they put their posters out, and then I'd just say I'd put an event on I'd put a crappy little event on in some crap town somewhere, and say, "Oh, sorry everyone, we're on that day. We've got an event, and obviously you can't play elsewhere when we've got an event on." So that's what I do. The bastard in me.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Is the thing, because look, there are players that aren't happy within the darting setup. Yes, they are lower ranked, some of them, so perhaps they haven't got the clout or want to speak against the authority, but there are plenty of players that are unhappy with the current system, because we're looking at it. I've got the tour card race. I'm going to use Mervyn King here. So on a 2-year rolling cycle, Mervyn King has earned £39,000 in 2 years. Plus he's had to pay to get to all these tournaments and whatever.
Yeah.
And live. That's not sustainable for a full-time pro.
Well, it's not, especially when you're having to pay, your accommodation, your travel, traveling all over the country, you're paying your fuel, you're doing everything else that you need to do. It's not, is it? It's not a full-time income. It's not. No. It's not what you would earn if you were on minimum wage doing a minimum wage job.
Exactly, and that goes back to the point we were saying that the tour at the moment financially cannot sustain 128 professional players, and that was the point that Matt was making. Unless something changes, will it? I don't think so, but I think it should.
I think it's a little bit like earlier. You need to see, sustained growth of the of darts in general, new income streams coming in, or increased income streams coming in, perhaps when the Sky deal's up to be renegotiated, and there's different money comes into the picture, whether that's a bigger deal with Sky or a move to elsewhere. But I think they're the times when you might see opportunities for a bigger restructure, because at least when there is a bigger restructure, there'll be a funding plan in place to be able to fund it.
You say fund it though, look, and I understand that the PDC are a promotional company, but I haven't got the figures in front of me. But when they came out, it was all over the internet that the PDC made more money than the boxing last year. It was millions.
Yeah, but unfortunately, and I see the comment in there, like if you own a business, like you get to decide how much of the profits you keep. That's part of that's part of the fun. Like that's part.
I fully get that.
Like you're not obligated to, like, if you want to go and buy a helicopter and you've earned the money to buy a helicopter, you're allowed to go and buy that helicopter. You're not obligated to then, but I think it's difficult to do that if you've got people who the world perceives work for you. Now, again, like you can get into all the employment law you want. The world perceives them as being employed by you, and they can't earn minimum wage. There is a perception problem there is an image problem with that fact.
Well, I might be reading this wrong, but I've just had a quick glance whilst we're doing this. The profit for the financial year for the PDC was £11 million profit. Yet you've got people that can't live and survive. That's not a good look.
It's not a good look, and this is the problem. It's not a good look. As legal as everything may be, it doesn't look good. It doesn't warm people's hearts. It doesn't make people think, "Oh, what a lovely bunch of lads."
This is the issue when you've got a promotional company masquerading as a governing body.
But sometimes
I don't think enough people understand the differences and the nuances between the two.
There are people, Gob, that don't. That I'd take that a step further, and I would say that there are a lot of people that do not understand the difference between the promotional company and the sport itself.
Yeah,
like there are casual fans that do not understand any separation between the sport and the PDC. Like they think that's what it is.
But also, this is the problem when a sport doesn't have a governing body.
Not a strong one.
Oh, I don't know. There's other sports that have a governing body and they're shit as well. It's not always a good thing.
Robbed in the Olympics, by the way. Shock.
Oh, God.
One of our boxers has been absolutely robbed in the Olympics, by the way, since they've moved to a 10-point judging system rather than points.
But yeah.
In fact, we've had 3 beat and 3 have been robbed. The 3 that I've seen, anyway.
Interesting. Yeah, look, it's an interesting one. A week in darts. Glob, this is now your bit because you can go to the seniors.
Hey.
I've already been there. Do I have to?
Go back.
3 days there.
Go back.
5 events, 3 days. 1 tournament director who also did social media. That'll be me. Good weekend. Jim McEwen doing the double on the Friday in the ranking events. Beating Mark Durbridge and Kevin Edwards in those finals. Step too far on Saturday morning, though, which was won by Paul Rowley, a new first-time winner on the tour. Saturday night, James Richardson qualified for the World Seniors match play in York. He's only been playing in the seniors since earlier this year. He turned 50 in January, I think it was. That's his first win of any sort, and he's done it as a TV qualifier. So we're going to see him up in York. He defeated Mike Norton in the final. Mike, who looked absolutely magnificent at times this weekend for a man who has had both his knees replaced in the last 12 months to be up throwing darts. Competitive enough to make a final in a room that included the talent and the standard that it did this weekend is mightily impressive. And then the final event on the Sunday, David Cameron of Canada defeating Andy Bolton 6-5 in a deciding leg. David on 2-6-5 decided to stay on the 20s, giving Andy 6 darts from 144. Andy only scores 60, not 84. Realizes he's not having a good day on double 12s. David then fired in a 137. He scored 91. He tried to switch for the last dart and put it in the 11. Fired in a 137 to leave 57, I think, if my maths is correct. I can't remember. Bolton, single 20, goes aggressive on the treble 14 and hits the treble 11 to cost himself a potential match dart. And then Cameron won 6-5. But Cameron made the semi-finals the day before, losing to Mike in a last leg decider where he missed match darts to get over the line. That same time, Jim Long made the semi-final. So both of those are committed to travelling over just to play in qualifiers. They seem really intent on chasing success at seniors level, which was really good to see. David Cameron is playing some magnificent stuff for the minute. I've mentioned it the last couple of times we've spoken about the seniors. His full focus at the moment is on darts. He's gone full time as a dart player, and it seems to really be paying off. Consistency is there. He's playing some real nice stuff, as I said. So he'll be back, hoping to pick up Plenty more ranking points to get him back up the list because his former Masters title has now dropped off. But in general, yeah, look, really, really competitive weekend. Standard was just mind-blowing at times. You look around, Robert Thornton won 1 game in 3 events this weekend.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, that just doesn't... 2-time world champion at that level. Like, that just doesn't happen. Let me pull up the rest. The Open Series. Oh, that's the future one. But you had things like, so the top 4 in the rankings going into the ranking events were Paul Hogan, Matt Clark, Richie Howson, and one other, Darren Johnson, maybe. It's now Jim after back-to-back. Dubbridge has flown out. And Mike Huntley as well before the weekend started. I think the furthest any of them got was the last 16.
Yeah.
Your top 4, they've been such consistent performers at that level, but it's just so difficult now to go in. And the fact that McEwen's done the double on the Friday, I don't think was drummed up enough, perhaps, because that's seriously impressive to do in that room. Mark Dubbridge has only been playing the floor events for a year. He's already the 5th ranked player in that, effectively the Pro Tour order of merit for the seniors. Derek Coulson's looking really, really sharp as well. There's some players that are going the other way. Paul Holloway's been a seed for a long, long time. He's looking like he might drop out of that. You've got Ross Montgomery about to break the top 20. Jim Long's already in the top 7. He's 17th now. Colin McGarry, 15th. And admittedly, he's not attended as many this year as he has done in previous years, but that ranking was super high before and struggling a little now. So, yeah, the standard, really, really good. Great to see Simon Adams there, another country now represented by the seniors. I was trying to do a count, but Dart Connect had a couple that I wasn't sure if they'd played or not. But, yeah, in general, really, really positive weekend for Darts Road. 2 interesting players to make it through.
Nice. Super Series, great to see Connor Scott winning. He was favourite before a dart was thrown, and he was a little bit nervous, but played some good stuff.
On the Saturday, the group battle between him and Ashley Coleman for Group A was superb. Like, both finishing 26 points is a ridiculous standard. Like, that just doesn't happen. That's you literally, that's the highest amount of points you can finish and still get runner-up.
Yeah.
And for them to both finish on that was really, really good. Intriguing week as a whole, but yeah, Connor delivering when it mattered, beating Osborne in that final. Will have gone a long way to being favourite, perhaps, for Champions Week now. The first time he's got over the line in Portsmouth, but actually the talent that he possesses, the extra gears Connor's got, we've seen that over the week. 120 average at one point, and didn't hit a 180 in the match.
Yeah.
That's what on earth? It was just relentless. So yeah, look, really intriguing. Champions Week is coming together quite nicely now as well. There's a weird little balance between players over the age of 50 who seem to dominate the early few weeks of qualifying. Paul Hogan, Richard Rowlands, Neil Duff, Jim Long. The young guys have sort of hit back now in Connor Scott, in Tom Sykes, Jimmy Vanschke. There's one more in there somewhere as well. I mean, there's nobody over the age of 35, between 35 and 50, which is such a weird thing when you consider the prime age of dart players. Everybody's either under the age of 35 or over the age of 50.
Interesting.
And even the players that have been runners-up in those finals, Andreas Harrison, Colin Osborne, they're all in that mould as well.
Yeah, 100%. It was a really good week at the Super Series. Get your questions in, everyone. What else are we missing? A week of darts.
we touched on it briefly because of the drama, but actually the title's handed out at national finals for the singles and pairs.
I didn't see any of it.
I didn't see any of it, but I kept track of it. So Jim Williams won the men's singles, turned up. Joe Locke defended her women's title, so she's gone back-to-back in Bolton. The men's pairs was won by Sean Holly and Shane Turner of Oxfordshire, beating Sam Kankit and Nick Kenny in the final. And the women's pairs, Roz Hemmings and Vicky Pruim, beating Angela Mann and Angela Kirkwood 4-3 in the final. The one that's probably had the best weekend overall is Shane Turner of Oxfordshire, winning that pairs, but he also lost in the semi-finals of the singles, went furthest in both of those, had a 10 out of 10 run on the county stage for Oxford this year as well, and has won an event in Aylesbury not too long ago as well in the ADC circuit, so he's a name to keep an eye out for.
Yes. Lee, we haven't planned that far ahead yet, mate.
You mean next week?
So, yeah, Pro Tour predictions. I think it's going to be interesting because there's some that haven't played for a long time. There's some that it's going to be short of reps.
Well, we've got 3 as well, haven't we?
Yeah, 3. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Oh, right. So... Ryan Still wins one. So does Chris Dobie. Big boys all there.
No MVG. Obviously, he's at the second part of his operation. Yeah. No Aspinall.
Is Humphreys playing? If Humphreys is there, he gets the third. Searle, Dobie, Humphreys. They're the 3 this week. And mind you, Chris is probably correct, actually. Chris's picks are better than mine.
Let's have a look. Who's missing?
Oh, there was a 9 darter on Nordic and Baltic this weekend as well.
Hey.
Right. So, missing Nathan Aspinall, Brett Claydon, Jacques Labra, who seems to have given up on his card now, Adrian Lewis, Hopai Puhau, I think he's gone home early for the World Series, Michael Van Gogh and Adam Smith-Neal is unavailable to play. Call-ups as it stands at the moment are Christian Kist, Andy Bolton, Connor Scott, Wesley Placia, John Henderson, Darryl Pilgrim and Stefan Belmont are your call-ups. So, yes, Humphreys is there.
Well, Humphreys will win one then because it's what he does, isn't it? Best player in the world.
Yeah, unplayable at times.
And he's got 3 days to be unplayable. So the chance is, over the course of those 3 days, he'll be unplayable on at least one of them. So, like, if you're going to get a clutch of 3, Humphreys will win one, won't he? Because one day he'll just be himself. He'll just be Luke Humphreys for a day. So if you've got 3, I think he's definitely picking one up.
Humphreys picks one up. Anderson picks one up. Price picks one up.
Ooh.
James Wade.
Hey!
He's back. I'll give Humphreys one. Oh, no. Johnny Clayton. The Ferret.
Rogue.
I don't mind the pick.
And Peter Wright. Out of nowhere.
Are you drunk?
Right. I was going to say, that would be out of nowhere.
He is due one out of nowhere. It's the sort of thing he does.
That's more than an RKO out of nowhere, that is.
Yeah, that is a rather extreme prediction.
Chris, does Nathan Aspinall get back in the Premier League? I think a lot is on the treatment and how he comes back.
I think the answer to that is yes, of course he does, but not next year.
Yeah, next year might come too soon.
I think that's literally it. I think I think next year will come too soon, but of course we will see Nathan Aspinall in the Premier League again.
I think I saw on Facebook Nathan Aspinall went and played in an exhibition this weekend.
He did.
Why? I don't want to bash the lad, but if you are at a point where you have had to put your career on hold effectively at the top level because you are injured to go and get sorted, playing more is clearly doing damage to it if you're waiting, or unless you've got the all clear and that's all completely wrong, but we haven't heard that publicly. But in the last 3 months now, we've seen him play on the World Series knowing that he's struggling with a match play defence coming up, and now do an exhibition a week and a half after the match play's over. All right, small scale, local one. Why not? He's throwing darts.
I'll tell you what I'd be doing if I was him. I think that it must be, and I'm making wild. It must be very unnerving and a bit frightening knowing that what you might end up with in terms of your, what you can get back to and how you will recover from your injury. And therefore, I'd be trying to collect every pound note that was available to me before that surgery happened. In order to make sure.
He's having shockwave therapy, isn't he?
Is that what he's having?
Yeah.
I mean, who knows then?
I just don't get it. I understand the logic of trying to stockpile cash and whatever, but if in doing so you're making the possibility of a return to the top level less likely by doing more damage.
Also, is there a difference between him performing in a PDC major on the TV, defending a title, and making sure the darts hit the board at an exhibition?
I'd be pissed if you're just floating them up, no effort, if I've paid to go and see you. I don't think there's a way you can get around his action because he's got that set emotion as well. I don't think there is a quick fix. Yeah, I can do this painless, and it was okay to get away with it. Peter shouldn't have got picked last year, and if Gezi accepts, I'll be very, very surprised. By the way, the two players I said last year that shouldn't be in it.
Big changes to the Premier League next year in terms of personnel, I think.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. It will be interesting. Some good stuff coming up on the channel this week. We've got interviews with Luke Humphreys and Gemma Hayter to drop this week, along with 3 Pro Tour streams. So plenty going on, boys.
Beautiful.
Exciting week ahead.
Yeah, if you haven't yet, make sure you drop us a like and subscribe. Massively appreciate all your support. Thank you very much for joining us on this magnificent Monday here at Online Darts. We have you covered with everything you need. Have a great rest of the evening, and we will see you on Wednesday for the stream. But I've been Phil Bars. I've been joined by Dan Simpson and Jack Jarwood. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure as always, and we'll see you all very, very soon.
Bye.